Hello, and welcome to the road ahead. My name is Mary Jane Collins, and I'll be your host. Today we'll be covering the simple balance sheet. Let's start with the three-line header for the first section of the statement. In the header, we have the name of the company, the title of the statement, and the date for which the statement is prepared. For our example, the name of the company will be Love Thy Pet. The title of the statement will be balance sheet. And important to remember, as opposed to the income statement and retained earnings statement, which must be prepared before you can prepare a balance sheet, you only use the date of the day you prepare the statement, which is December 31st, 2014. Let's move on to the section, which is the asset section. We will start by centering in the left-hand column the title Assets. We will then list our assets first and then second in order of liquidity. How fast can you turn an asset into cash? It is very important that you list them in that order. You will get used to it as you prepare financial statements. You will bring the amounts over one column when you're subtotaling. It is very important to remember that in financial statements there is no debit or credit side. It is simply you start with the right hand column, and then whenever you have to subtotal, you draw it back to the left one column. You will then put a dark underline under the last asset to denote that you are going to add these. You will write total assets, and then you will add the two assets together and put the total in the right hand column. Under the total assets, you will put a double underline. Remember also to put your dollar signs at the top of any column you're adding and at the bottom where you total the column. Now let's look at an example. Here's an example. So we've got assets centered. Here is our assets. I provided more. I can't provide every asset for every different company. There's many assets in the world. It's basically everything a company owns. So cash would be first because it's the most liquid. Then accounts receivable, supplies, prepaid insurance, and building net in that order. Then you will pull those amounts over one column and you will put a dark underline under the last asset. You will put total assets. You will add all the assets together and put the total in the right hand column, and then you will double underline it. And this is how you create the asset section. Now we have two sections. We have the header section and we have the asset section of the simple balance sheet. The third section will be the liabilities and stockholders' equity section. You will start with the title centered, then you will list liabilities, which is a section header and not an account. Then you will list the accounts. You will pull the amounts back, putting a dollar sign at the top. Then you will total the liabilities, putting the amount in the right hand column by adding those together. Then you'll do the section header, or subsection really, of the stockholders' equity. Then you will list common stock and retained earnings in that order. Those are the two most common that we'll be using in this course, but in future courses we will be extending this. Then we will pull those back, add them together. We will put total stockholders' equity. Then we'll put the dark underline and put the total over in the right-hand column. And then we will do total liabilities and stockholders' equity. For this, we will add only the two amounts in the right-hand column together, and that will give us our total stockholders' equity and liabilities. So let's look at the example. We got liabilities and stockholders' equity. We'll start with the liabilities header. We will list these liabilities in order of magnitude, starting with notes payable and then accounts payable. We will then put the amounts in the left-hand column because we're subtotaling them. We'll add a black underline to denote that we're doing addition. We will then do total liabilities and put the dollar amount for the total liabilities in the right-hand column. We will then do the subheading stockholders' equity. We will list common stock and retained earnings, pulling the amounts over one column to the left to denote that we're subtotaling. We will then put the dark underline under that, so we're adding these together. We'll do total stockholders' equity, and we'll put that in the right-hand column. And we'll place a dark underline under that, and then we'll do total liabilities and stockholders' equity. And what we'll do is we'll add the two amounts in the right-hand column, and then we will put double underlines. Notice the dollar signs are at the top of any column that is being added and at the total. Now we have our three sections. We have the header section, we have the asset section, and we have the liabilities and stockholders' equity section. These are the three sections of a simple balance sheet. Remember that total assets must be the same as total liabilities and stockholders' equity. Total assets is everything the company owns, and total liabilities and stockholders' equity is how you paid for those assets, whether it's cash or whether it's a trademark. You received the money by either borrowing it or through stockholders' equity. This ends my presentation on simple balance sheets. And here's some job aid links. This one is to the simple balance sheet, and this one is to a more complicated classified balance sheet, which simply breaks the accounts down into more specific sections. Thank you for your interest. Please feel free to review the other statements, and remember, even if the problem doesn't tell you, you have to do the income statement first, then the retained earnings statement, and then the balance sheet in that order. You can't jump around. They must be done in that order. And remember, don't ever put revenues, expenses, or dividends on the balance sheet. Thank you again, and this ends the presentation.